Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. We're back on the Hayabusa engine. So I acquired some parts for the last video. I wanted to replace that oil pump. New oil pumps, Suzuki oil pumps, they're like almost $200, so that was not going to happen. I did find a great deal on eBay for a used oil pump. I did check it out. The rotor looks very good for a used pump. You know, I didn't want to risk it with this one. Off camera, I did test the original pump that was damaged from the sucking up metal, and it's still pumping oil. So that's a good thing, but I just, for the sake of pulling this all out again, and a whopping $15 shipped for this used pump, I couldn't pass it up. Some cheap insurance. Yes, in a real world, I wouldn't suggest buying a used pump. You know, $200, or you know, you're destroying a $2,000 motor. But $15 and the rotor is perfect condition. I couldn't go wrong. $15 shipped. So the bad one, which it still works, I'm going to pull this out, put the used one in, and we're good to go there. I got the springs in. So you remember one of the springs was missing. This holder had the broken stud in there. I was able to extract the stud. It was just loose in there. I took a pick. I just took a metal pick and kind of spun it around. There was just enough flat spot in there. It had like a little recess. I was able to just spin it around loosely in there and pull it out. So I didn't have to buy one of these. This whole mechanism itself that this screws to is the slipper clutch. I did not realize that. Normally, most of the bikes I get, they don't have slipper clutches, but this mechanism here is the slipper clutch. And I guess this is a thing that Gen 1 Hayabusa's owners, they kind of modify this. This slipper clutch is supposed to sit in there and wobble around. And under high RPM, when you snap off the throttle, the slipper clutch actually pushes the clutch packs, kind of pretty much manually releasing the clutch packs at high RPM when you take the throttle off. I guess that's to prevent the back wheel from locking up. Don't really know why you need that, but I mean, I'm not a racer. I don't understand any of that. To me, a motorcycle, I ride on the street and, you know, for an hour or so, and that's it. I have no experience at tracks and road tracks or anything like that, drag strips, stuff like that. So the modification to this slipper clutch is pretty simple. You weld the slop out of it, so it's one solid piece, and it no longer performs that slipper clutch action. So this was already done. The clutch packs look good. I'm not going to spend any more time on it because it's already modified. And now I have the new heavier springs for it, and everything's ready to put back together. All right, so let's start off with the pump. So I did put, off camera on the last video, I put the oil pan back on. I put the old pump back in, and then I spun the pump without the gear, of course, and oil was kind of squirting out everywhere. I heard it coming up from the cams and everything. So we're good to go there. I'm just gonna pull that pump out for insurance. It's pretty simple. Take the gear off and take the 3 screws out. And I think I took my snap ring pliers away. It's 3 8mm bolts. And it slides right out. It's notched. See it here. It just has a little, like a cam notch there, and it slips right into the notch in the case. And you gotta remember, this pin can just fall out. Without that pin, you don't have an oil pump. So just make sure you don't lose that pin. And now I'm just gonna check the gasket. Gasket looks good. Right there, you saw the pin fall out. We'll just leave it there for now. And you'll know when it slips into place inside that notch, because it falls right into place. Otherwise it won't seat. You don't want to force it in there with the bolts. So little torque, maybe 8 to 10 Newton meters. Very little foot pounds, 5, 6 foot pounds. Doesn't take much. And we're just gonna take a magnet and kind of pull back on the drive gear so we can get the clip back in there. Down on this, see if it makes sure it's seated. Alright, perfect. Pull on it, make sure it doesn't pop off and the clip doesn't go flying out. Make sure you got it seated. And it's in there. Alright. And I'll just put this old pump over here. Still works, but it was pretty badly damaged. It may produce some oil pressure. I don't know exactly how much oil pressure it's producing, but with the damage that's in there, it's definitely not going to produce enough. We don't want any issues. Come on, get on there. Oh, why don't you guys tell me I was doing it wrong? Duh. Basket first, people. Getting ahead of myself. Come on, slip back on there. Put that ring on. That's seated. All right, now we can put the clutch in. I don't know what the heck I was thinking on that one. Just got to line up everything here. This gets really big here. I think they have an extra plate in there. check this here. Just double check and make sure they have all the, yep, there's the last one. Oh, yep, there it is. There was 2 friction plates. They had an old friction plate left in there. Now we're good to go. Small friction disc, friction disc, friction disc, friction. Okay, perfect. It didn't seem right when I put all the clutch packs in. It ended up having a friction at the end, which is not what it's supposed to be. So now, I'm sorry, a metal disc at the end instead of a friction. So now it's correct. Not sure why they left the old clutch in there, the 1 friction. It probably definitely messed with the feel of the clutch because it probably couldn't move. It probably couldn't disengage having, you know, an extra one in there. And then the last one, you offset in the center there. Before I forget, I gotta tighten that one that had the broken bolt in there. If I can find any of my tools. Keep jumping the gun. What's wrong with me? Goes like that. Okay, perfect. Hey, there's a piece of metal on a little burr on my socket, and it cut me pretty good because when I was holding it. No worries. It's part of working on your stuff. All right, that looks good. Now to stop the nut from spinning off, we're just gonna do a little indentation here. Perfect. So this should go like this. Oh, now I see why they did it. We're missing one clutch pack material. So instead of them putting the correct clutch pack in there, they used the old one to make up the difference. So this is supposed to be like this. And then this is supposed to be a regular clutch. So we'll put this together, and then I'll have to find another clutch. In the meantime, we'll just put it all together. This can easily be removed and installed in the bike, so we'll just proceed on. But this is the smaller clutch friction that's supposed to go on the inside. This is the old one. I don't know if they ordered the right clutch and it didn't have enough of them with it, but this is definitely not correct. Because now I know why they had it like this. And when I pulled it apart and I saw this thin one, so this thin one is not supposed to be on the outside. You could see all the spacing. It needs a normal clutch size. So the sake of not destroying the clutch, let me flip this around. I don't want to destroy the surface of this and pre-wear it. So at least till I can get another clutch, I won't destroy this outer pressure plate. Now, that's the perfect spacing. Now I wish I kept the clutch disc, the old clutch discs on the Suzuki TL1000R from the previous video. I'll have to check. I think I threw it out. And for some reason those don't fit. Well, that was a disappointment. These are supposed to fit Gen 1 Hayabusa. It's a little off. Why is it a little off? Definitely looks like they're not centered. Nothing ever is easy, huh? No, it's definitely not centered. Something must be going on with this slipper. Because it's sitting at a weird angle to where the spring can't go in there. Trying to figure out what's going on here. Maybe wasn't welded flat. It's hard to tell. Something's not right. Something is not right. It looks flat. Looks like it was welded flat. Get in there. Trying to get it to seat. Very fine. Oh, it's up. There we go. Didn't realize it dropped. Seating. not seating. How many times am I going to drop that? Well, what on earth is that? It's one of the new springs. Looks like there's a weld in there. Huh. Interesting. See, it sits in there, but it's not centered. Nope. And the factory spring's sitting there just fine, but these are beefy. Okay, plan B. I'm going to use the original springs, and then I'm going to rob one spring off of the Ninja 650 clutch, and hopefully that'll solve the problem. Oh, of course, the clutch is different. Never mind, that's not going to work. Nope, those springs are huge. That is not going to work. Let me check the manual really quick. All right, I figured out what happened here. This slipper clutch mechanism here, when they welded it, they left raised edges of weld puddle sloppiness. And the pressure plate side is actually hitting the weld, so it's cocking it, and the springs will not sit centered into the pressure plate. So I have to remove all of this. I have to remove the nut again. I'll pull out this slipper clutch, and then I got to grind down these welds flat because it's just not seating. And this washer, it's concave. I don't know if you can see that. The slipper clutch where the washer goes, it's also concave. It does match this, so you want the concaved outside area. It's, you know, how to explain it. Concave being that way. You want that against the slipper clutch, because if you put it the other way, then this concave side is out this way toward the nut, and it doesn't sit right. So it has to go that way, and then it sits completely flush. No movement, no gaps. All right, I gotta pull all these fingers out, or studs, or whatever you want to call them, so I can grind down this weld. I mean, you can see this weld is sticking up quite a bit. Good 1/8 of an inch here, and that's enough to butt up against the pressure plate. You can see it kind of right there. Kind of made a pretty big indentation, so it's not sitting flush. All right, I'm not going to bore you with the grinding part, so I'll come back when it's done. Okay, just finished grinding. Now it's pretty flat, so hopefully we can get that pressure plate to align now. All right, let's put it back together for the 3rd time. I got the gun set on the lowest setting as to not break anything. All right, let's hope this lines up. Nope, it's just, these springs are huge. not lining up. I don't know if you can see this, but you can see the pressure plate is not sitting straight. The pins are over to the side a little bit. And no matter what position I put it in, they're still shifted to one side. Even if I, try and move that, nothing happens. I mean, the spring is definitely not going to fit in there. Look at that. I mean, that is sitting damn near very close to the edge of the pressure plate. I'm not sure what the solution is. I'm not sure what they did. The manual shows exactly the same thing. The only difference that I have is that I have that extra smaller friction plate, but I don't see how that would affect it. And now it's not sitting, it's not butting up against that slipper clutch anymore, or slipper mechanism. It's up in my turn. Nothing, no matter what I do. Okay, this is very discouraging. Let me think to myself a little bit and figure out a solution. All right, after an hour of fussing with it off camera, I managed to figure out what was going on. So when you weld that slipper clutch mechanism, you lose all the play in the slipper clutch. So you have to tighten the nut here in the perfect spot. You got to hold the slipper clutch, tighten the nut, and slowly tighten the nut to where the shaft does not spin on the inside. That way the spring mounts don't kind of shift on you, because that slipper clutch has quite a bit of play, and that play is now gone because it's welded. So that was the issue why the pressure plate looked a little off. Kind of it moved inside, and you couldn't get the spring in there because it moved inside the section inside the pressure plate here, because the nut was tight and you couldn't move it manually with that nut tight. So I had to loosen the nut, make a mark make a mark on the nut and on the slipper clutch mechanism, and then try and hold those two lines so it doesn't move when I tighten it, because the nut, the slipper clutch, and the shaft is what's moving. That there's a little bit of play in there, and that's what allows you to get the springs in there. When the slipper clutch is working normally, it has plenty of play, which you don't have when you weld it. So that's done. Now I'm just gonna put that detent back in the nut so it doesn't move. Keep forgetting to push rod. There we go. Wow, what a pain. This is, I've never taken 2+ hours to do a clutch job before. It's kind of crazy. You just never know what other people are doing. But according to other YouTube videos, I came across another YouTube video from some gentleman in England. Can't remember his name, but it literally says Gen 1 Hayabusa clutch mod. If you want to look that up, you can see exactly what the factory, the OEM slipper clutch mechanism does. It literally sits in there. It looks like it's going to fall out. And then the mod for it is exactly what was done here. They weld the slipper clutch together so it doesn't release the clutch at higher RPM off throttle. When you snap the throttle shut at higher RPM, it will not release the clutch. And these springs are substantially tighter than the factory ones. I couldn't find any factory springs. They wanted like $30 for one spring, one OEM spring. And I picked up the aftermarket kit on eBay. I think it was $50 shipped. Not much torque on these guys. Might be putting 6, 7, 8 foot-pounds on it, and that's about it. So, used oil pump is in, clutch is in. Let's clean up the surface here. We'll bust open the new gasket kit and put the gasket on here. I'm gonna kind of oil up that new gasket because I'm going to have to go back into this clutch in the future to get the proper clutches, because there is one clutch friction in there that's not supposed to be in there. But for the sake of getting this thing inside, back in the bike and running, we're getting close. We do have to, after this is done, we have to tackle the valve adjustment. Let me spend some time, that's going to be very boring TV, scraping this gasket material off, and next time you see me, we'll be ready to put that cover back on. Alright, case is cleaned up. The looks like the original gasket's kind of like a lead gasket, like the kind of gasket you would see on like an exhaust flange gasket. It's got that lead in there. We scraped all that off. The new gasket is a Cometic gasket. It's kind of like a rubber. I want to preserve it because I really don't want to spend another $80 for a gasket kit. So I put a little oil around the seal. You can also use grease. Put a thin layer of grease around the gasket so you can remove it if you need to in the future without damaging it. Just gonna scrape this up really quick and we can put it on. Sorry, I'm doing this so away from the camera to avoid I'm not dropping all the bolts. I like to keep my bolts in their place so I don't forget where the heck they go. All these bolts appear to be the same size, so you can technically remove them. I'll just remove them for you, and then we'll scrape this. I'm not looking forward to the valve adjustment. You know, I really hate doing valve adjustments. Not that it's hard, it's just time consuming. It's really annoying. I wish they would make these damn bikes, you know, hydraulic valve lash adjusters or something, but you know, when you're spinning that kind of RPM, solid lifters are the only way to go, I guess. But you think 2024 they would have a solution to that problem. And that way the manufacturers can produce a bike that has less cost of ownership. You only can do so much, I guess. I'll get, after this, I'll get a measurement of the valve lash on the intake and exhaust cam. I know the exhaust is really bad. It's way out of spec. And I'm hoping I can salvage some of the shims from the old head so I don't have to buy a $100 shim kit, because that's how much they are. A while back, I think Kawasaki used to do it. You can I don't know if they do that anymore at the dealer, but you can just go to the dealer, give them your old shim, and then ask, they'll give you the shim you need in exchange for your old shim. That's what the Kawasaki dealer did at the dealership I lived near in Tampa. That was 12 plus years ago. So I'm not sure if the dealers even bother doing that anymore. Dealers used to be so much nicer. Now they're just, nope, we're not touching it unless you pay us. The second you buy that motorcycle from the dealer, that's it. That's where customer service stops. I only bought 2 new bikes in my 25 plus year riding experience. One of them was a 1998 Honda Superhawk. I bought it brand new from the dealer back in '99. It was a 98 model that was sitting on the floor. It was new old stock. They wanted to get rid of it. They dropped the price $1,000. At that time, that was the only bike I could afford. I really wanted the 1999 CBR 900 RR model, but I couldn't afford that one at the time, so I ended up buying that Superhawk. And then my next new purchase was in 2001. I bought a brand new Suzuki Hayabusa, and 6 months later it was stolen. And this is the first Hayabusa I've had since that 2001 model. Never found it either. That was 20-something years ago. 22 years ago to be exact. It was stolen in 2002. They never found it. Not even the frame, engine, nothing. They never found any part of that thing. Clean up these bolts. There's just RTV all over them. I mean, I can understand why somebody would just use RTV, even though it's annoying. You know, gasket kit is $100. And when you're constantly taking it on and off, it'll get pretty expensive. So that's why you lubricate them a little bit with some grease or oil, and you should be able to reuse them a few times. So much on here. And what helps when you reuse them, to help you reuse them, you don't want to over torque these either. They're very small bolts, 5-6 foot-pounds all you need, 8, 9, 10 Newton meters, however you whatever measurement you use. So on this cover, all the bolts are the same size, length, so. Pardon the background noise. If you hear my daughter screaming in the house. A couple of these screw holes here, or bolt holes here, I couldn't get the RTV out. There was a lot of them in the hole. I tried to pick out as much as I could, but on this inside case, this section right here, it's too difficult to get it out. I picked out as much as I could. All right. So that's that. That's all done. Now let's get some valve lash measurements here, and on the next video we'll tackle the valve lash itself, adjustments, because that's going to be a pretty long video. This video is getting pretty long as it is, you know, with the clutch issues. So let's get my feeler gauge, and then we can write down what the measurements are, and then the book will tell us what measurement we have and what shim we need to adjust it to spec. So spec is 0.10 to 0.20 millimeter. So let's see, in standard, that would be, I can't see here, that would be 4 thousandths to roughly 8 thousandths. Let me get a pen and a paper so we can write this down. All right, just kind of drew a sample here. This is cylinder 1, cylinder 4. So in reference to the engine, cylinder 1, cylinder 4. And then the exhaust cam is facing forward this way, and the intake cam is facing back on the back section of the engine. So you got 4 valves per cylinder, 2 intake, 2 exhaust. So we're going to start turning the engine to where the lobe is aimed up, and that'll give you the base of the cam riding on the lifter. And that's where we're going to get our measurement from. So the manual says put it at top dead center with the timing marks, and then check a specific set of lobes, and then turn it another 180 degrees, and then check the other lobes. So we're gonna do it a little different. We're gonna do it the harder way, because I want to make sure 100% I am getting the correct measurement. So I'm going to turn the engine a little bit until each and every lobe is pointed up, so I can get at the bottom of the base circle of that cam and lifter. So right now, number one is down. All right, so number one, intake cam is at the top. So now I just stick the feeler gauge in there. First one is 5 thousandths. Second one is 5 thousandths. All right, now we'll look around and see if any other ones are pointed up. Those all the way down. Number 4 exhaust. That one is out of spec at 8 thousandths. Same on the other one. we can get cylinder 3. Ooh, this one's bad. It's still going. That one's 10 thousandths. This one, 10 thousandths. The one next to it is 11 thousandths. Number 3-cylinder exhaust. Both of those are 9 thousandths. Number 4 intake. 4/1000 on both. All right, we have number 1 exhaust and 2 and 3 intake. Oh, we can get that in there. It's 5,000. Looks like the intake cam was looking good. The exhaust not so much. And I should be able to get the last 2 on this one. That's so gappy. Let's see, 7, 8, 9,000. Thousands. All right, this one. 9,000ths on one, 8,000ths on the other one. All right, let's get the number 3. This is the last one. Sorry, this is probably not very exciting, but figured I'd show you how to do it. Most people skip over this boring part because it's makes for very boring TV. All right, it's 5 thousandths on the loose. So the intake cam is in spec. So here are the numbers. Intake cam is good all across the board. 5 thousandths and 4 thousandths on the number 4 cylinder. The exhaust cam is bad all around. So we don't want to exceed. It is 8 thousandths would be exceeding the spec. So 8 thousandths would be 0.203 millimeter, and max would be 0.20 millimeter. That is the max spec. So 0.10, I'm sorry, 0.100 to 0.200 millimeter is the spec. So that equates to 4 to 7 thousandths. So 4 to 7 thousandths, we're bad all across the board on the exhaust cam. So the exhaust cam is going to need an adjustment on every one of them. Number 2 cylinder being the worst. 11 thousandths and 10 thousandths on those two. That's quite a big gap there, and definitely you would hear that that valve slap. So that as that lobe comes around, that cam lobe comes around, it has that excessive amount of gap there, and you're gonna hear it beating on it like tapping. So next video we'll put it in top dead center, and then we'll pull the cams back out, and hopefully I have enough shims to be able to do this. If not, then unfortunately I have to order a shim kit, which I really don't want to, but hopefully we'll get it done, and we'll see you next time. Appreciate you guys watching. Please like and subscribe.